You're listening to Coffee Speak, a special kind of spotlight episode on the Coffee Podcast, featuring voices from coffee people around the world just like you. I'm Jesse Hartman.
I have to start by saying what happened in the UK was that we had a week in which things were very uncertain, the week between when our government started advising consumers and customers not to patronize places where people were coming together, which included pubs and, of course, coffee shops and coffee bars, and the time that they actually closed them. And that week I found quite stressful because, in effect, the government had kicked to us as consumers a double bind. Did we do what was the safest thing? Or did we try and support our local businesses and our friends in the coffee business who were already experiencing somewhat of a crisis?
It goes without saying, COVID-19, coronavirus, has shaken the world as we know it, and the coffee community is taking a major hit. We have guests spanning the globe to talk about their experiences. My goal for this episode is not to iterate over the doom and gloom of COVID-19. There's enough of that. I also will not sugarcoat it or dismiss the weight of it. That would disregard the struggle and loss many of us coffee people are going through. So where do we go first? Well, in the midst of the internet overload on COVID-19, something caught my eye over at Standart magazine. So I reached out to Michael, Standart's chief of stuff. You come sort of from a TEDx organizer to a niche coffee magazine founder. I want to hear your story.
My story did start with events a few years back when I was at the university, at the high school actually. I was really into watching all kinds of tech videos, TEDx videos, and doing all kinds of e-learning Coursera courses. And I wanted to get into organizing such a thing in the city I come from, in Slovakia. I did get the TEDx license to host an event in my city, which was all great. But at the time when I started to do these TEDx events, they were quite a success, I started to drink coffee a lot. And I actually realized that coffee can have a taste after visiting first couple specialty coffee places. And I thought it could be quite fun to take my first event organizer experiences into the world of coffee. So I did with a couple of friends 2 or 3 coffee festivals. Mm-hmm. In Slovakia, then in Vienna, in Austria, and in Prague, which was a great fun. And since I was 17, like my passion was to connect people in a meaningful way. So I thought events in general, and then later on coffee events, were a great opportunity to meet interesting people and connect.
Your publication ships internationally, publishes quarterly, and it comes with a bag of specialty coffee. It's a unique thing to put in the hands of coffee people. Tell me a little bit about Standart and what it means to you as the founder and chief editor.
Well, you said it already, Jesse, and that's the thing, that we can put it into the hands of people. And that was something that I considered very important when I started to organize events, that it wasn't really physical and there was no tangible outcome of my work. And I wanted to find a way how to create something that I can hold in my hands, the people that buy it. And I knew that I didn't want to do another coffee shop. I knew that I don't have the money to start a roastery. So I thought a well-curated print magazine is something that I haven't seen in the coffee industry at that point in time. And I was a big fan of the New Yorker, Monocle, and all kinds of good long form magazines. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I understood that running an independent print publisher about specialty coffee is as niche as it gets, and business-wise, it's not particularly easy. Having a proper structure of the business model is super important. So that's why we came up with ideas like it should be based primarily on subscriptions and not necessarily a sort of a classic old school magazine distribution model where you work with a lot of newsstands and they take a lot of commission, and the conditions are not great for publishers. We also wanted to bring another layer of sensoric experience to the readers, so we started collaborating with Coffee Shop to offer sample bags of coffee with every issue and all kinds of things. So yeah, I would, if you're asking what it means to me personally, or what it represents, I look at it from perhaps two perspectives. So the first is through the lenses of the product, the magazine itself. Like it's to me, it's the perfect personification of the world of coffee, right? That's what we wanted to achieve. That the content of the magazine should be quite geeky for some readers, but not too much to intimidate people that are not familiar with the specialty.
Yeah.
There should be enough high quality writing, maybe towards the direction of popular academics, that kind of stuff. We also wanted to bring in stories from people that are not professionals in the coffee industry, or maybe not even work in the industry, but just enjoy drinking coffee. So that's why we do. An interview called Meet Your Guest. So to me, Standard as a product represents this perfect personification of different layers of coffee as I see them, and a great form of connector of all parts of the industry. The second layer of my answer, what it represents to me as a company, is that because we are able to run the magazine from basically anywhere on the planet, it's a very inspiring journey so far, and it's a very steep learning curve for myself, because especially from the business point of view, because I get to work with a lot of fascinating people from all around the world that I often don't even meet. Like I do have some people in my team that I work with for a couple of years now, but we started to work, and the first time we've met was 6 months after we essentially started to work together. We became a remote first company basically since day one. So to me, Standard as a company represents a sort of a new generation or a new wave of how it's possible to run a business without having a physical office, without having meetings every morning, every afternoon.
I want to go off of something you actually said earlier. It's actually the main reason I invited you on the show was because I knew Standard had this sort of special goal of being something tangible to the coffee industry. I like the way you put it, personifying coffee industry itself, coffee people, sort of the culture of it. And then you emphasized the way that it connects coffee people across borders. And with that, it's impossible to ignore COVID in our conversation today. I think it would be irresponsible for us to ignore COVID in this conversation today. And so you're a small company. You have a small company. It's a global company. You have people in Japan, Netherlands, Russia, Georgia, Slovakia is where you are, right? In England. How has your connecting with your team given you perspective on the COVID situation, since you have people kind of scattered around the globe? Can you talk us through, maybe has that given you a nuanced perspective on COVID? And with that, can maybe give us a little bit of a story of a timeline of events that you experienced in your position at Standard?
That's a great question, and a very, very timely, as you said. We do feel the impact of the outbreak on multiple levels. And the first time we began feeling that was in January this year. I was in Marrakesh in Morocco for a couple of weeks to work remotely from there, and I began receiving emails from our warehouse in Berlin. Because as a magazine, we have 3 warehouses in Berlin, in Tokyo, and in Moscow. And I began receiving emails that the shipping to China and South Korea will most probably be impacted by this special kind of a virus that's going on in there, but it shouldn't affect the global logistics. It's just the case of China, Hong Kong, Macau, and it should be gone in a couple of weeks. That's when it started. Me personally, I didn't really live through any period like this in the past. When there was SARS happening, I think I was 9 years old or 10 years old. So I don't really remember that. This was the first time I came to a situation like that. So then in February, in beginning March this year, when it started to all get real for Europe and for North America, then we began to feel the impacts of it. On the team level and on the production level, not a lot changed, because as I said, we used to work remotely in the past. We were a remote first company since day one anyway. So it wasn't a big dramatic change to work from home. So we kept our levels of productivity. Since we were a magazine, we do a lot of work with photographers and illustrators and writers that are every issue from different countries, different cities. We started to get some cancellations that this photo shooting can't be done because of the curfew or because of this restriction or that restriction. That was the first problem when we started to feel on the production level that a lot of the photographers that we worked with had to cancel their commissions. So we needed to improvise and change a lot of the content that we had planned for summer this year.
Yeah.
And then at the business level, it's hard to say because it's a snowball effect, right? And it affects all industries. And in hospitality and in gastronomy, since a lot of coffee shops are closed, a lot of restaurants, bars, coffee roasters needed to shut doors, it began being significantly difficult for us as well to continue with a lot of the plans that we had. Like we planned to launch a rebranded and redesigned magazine at the World of Coffee in Warsaw this year. We plan to do an amazing panel event at the SCA Expo in Portland later in April. So all of these events plans had to be canceled naturally.
While Michael was in Slovakia tackling new challenges presented by the pandemic, Professor Morris was witnessing major changes happening at his local coffee shop.
We went through the week very quickly. We started with basically the feeling of not being quite sure what we should do. Should we be in the coffee shop or not? Should we be patronizing it or not? The day after the government made that call, the following morning in the coffee shop, pretty full. The morning thereafter, a lot more empty. I could tell that one of the owners of my personal shop that I use, my independent third wave, was very distressed because they had an elderly mother who was in isolation, and obviously she was worried about herself getting something that would be transmitted on. We went through a period of pulling out the tables, so we sat at every other table. Then we went down and it was takeaway only. It was almost a relief when things were closed. And when the government started introducing at least some schemes that maybe, because we really don't know as yet, may offer some mitigation to small business owners.
The effects of COVID-19 were being felt across the globe. Here's Benny from India.
My name is Benny Verghese. I'm from India. I used to work for a company as their head of training and innovation, and I quit that job a few days ago. And today, I was supposed to join my new job, but with the current COVID situation going around, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. The situation in general for the coffee community is kind of difficult and a little sad. Everybody is worried, what's going to happen next. Baristas are worried whether they're going to be having their jobs after this is over or not, whether they're going to get paid or not. I'm worried whether I'll still have my job by the time the situation all clears up. And sitting home doing nothing, that's not helping it at all.
My name is Sébastien Blondeau. I live in Montreal. I produce a French podcast about coffee. It's called Café Normal. I also work part-time at a coffee shop named Milk, which unfortunately had to close along with most other non-essential businesses here. On March 14th, the Quebec government declared state of emergency. They also asked everybody to stay home and avoid any kind of social gathering.
This is Elisa Criscione. I'm working as a consultant. So at this moment, I work independently, but I'm currently working for the Progressive Foundation in the Netherlands, mostly regarding Beyco. They are an online trading platform based on blockchain that they've been developing for the past 2 years. I would say it's been a process. I'm very lucky because I've been working remotely for the past year now, so I've not been really affected.
My name is Ana Valencia. I'm part of the team at Perfect Daily Grind. I live in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I've seen a lot of small coffee shops closing. A lot of friends who own coffee shops or are roasters or baristas are really worried about what's going to happen. We don't really know how this is going to affect our city or the country yet. But I know most of them are really worried they're not going to be able to reopen their shops.
And these are just a few of the stories coffee people are experiencing across the globe. A spectrum of experiences due to the pandemic, with many coffee professionals being furloughed, many coffee companies shutting their doors indefinitely, and in extreme circumstances, businesses shutting their doors permanently. The challenge cannot be ignored.
And what bothers me, I suppose, is that this is a very unusual situation. Most of coffee's biggest crises have come at the supply end of the chain, whether that has been crisis of undersupply or crisis of oversupply affecting back through the price. This time our crisis is not really at supply at all, our crisis is at demand. And we're really seeing that crisis expressed in a very particular way because it's a crisis of demand that can't be met through outlets that can't operate. And that's worrying.
While the challenge is huge, some coffee companies have found ways to get creative. Let's return to our conversation with Michael and learn how Standard got creative with these circumstances.
But yeah, we came up with plenty of other things that keep us busy these days.
Your website says, quote, "With Standard as a physical product, we generate income with direct subscriptions, wholesaling the magazine to our favorite coffee shops, working with international distributors for magazine stores, and by featuring partners in the magazine," end quote. Mm-hmm. This for you, and I'm not trying to say this is just Standard. Obviously, the industry as a whole is taking a major hit, but this is going right for the jugular of how y'all make money as a company, right? And we're going to get to the Give and Get promotion that I want to talk about that y'all are doing. But I want to know, how is Standard holding up through this difficult time?
Yeah. So as you correctly pointed out, we have three major sources of income, which is the first is the e-commerce, the individual subscriptions that we have. Then it's wholesale, whether coffee shops or independent magazine stores. And then the third is partnerships and collaborations with brands. The main idea since day one at Standard was to create a company that's not fully dependent on one source of income, which is the case of many magazines, not just in coffee, but generally magazine publications. Their business model is based on advertising. So I wanted to have the risk mitigated by having three different sources work together to overcome difficult periods such as this one. And it proved useful, particularly right now, also with different market versions that we have. It is true that, for example, wholesale is for us much smaller because naturally magazine stores, bookstores, we work a lot with airports are right now closed, right? So we can't really get a lot of income from that part of the business. But then on the other hand, a lot of the partnership deals that we have are for the whole year, or were agreed on ahead of schedule, or are in markets such as Japan, where of course the country is affected by the outbreak, but not as dramatically as the US or Southern Europe right now. So we don't really get, I mean, knock, knock, knock. We don't really get a lot of cancellations in terms of
Okay.
our partnership collaborations with brands, which is good. And in terms of subscriptions and individual e-commerce, it's hard to estimate how it's going to go with people losing jobs and with priorities shifting. And naturally, when there is a difficult situation in the family, or if you lose a job, getting a independent print magazine about coffee is probably not at the first of your priorities. But on the other hand, it's a beautiful thing that can come straight to your doors.
Mm-hmm.
And so since you're at home, it's a really good opportunity, a good time for you to sit down and read the magazine, read the stories, and drink some coffee.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it is affected with total numbers because of the job loss, because of shift in priorities. But on the other hand, we see an increase because people know that it can be delivered to their doors. They want to use the time they're at home for reading and drinking. So hopefully at the end of the quarter, it'll be in balance, these plus and minus.
As a company so closely tied to especially coffee folks around the world, coffee people in general, what are the biggest challenges you expect to face at Standart moving forward, not knowing the future?
It's hard to say. One of the worst things that I feel now is that this sense of uncertainty, that no one really knows for how long this is going to last, and how direct or indirect the impact on ourselves or our business will be. Because of course we are not just talking about the business implications, but health and health of ourselves and our families, which is of course number one in the list of priorities. And we already have a couple of cases of some of our writers that we work with are whether in quarantine or have symptoms or being tested positive themselves. So which is crazy, and I really hope that we all came out safe and sound out of this. So this uncertainty is the worst, that no one can predict how long this is going to last, how long the coffee shops will remain closed, and how it's going to impact the international logistics, for example, because that's another thing that we work with a lot of post offices all around the world, and like things get delayed, things get lost. It's just crazy, especially in some countries. Yeah, I mean, even when coffee shops will open before summer or during summer, we expect that probably there will be less foot traffic, even though it might be safer to walk around the city. People still might be reluctant to just spend a lot of time in public spaces with a lot of people around them. So even if things do get back to normal, well, quote unquote, go back to normal. What is normal, right? There will probably still be less foot traffic and less buying power in the economy. But I mean, if you look into the history, it's not the first time this happened, and it's not the first time. If God forbid will be a recession, depression coming on us, it's not the first time it happened in the society. And after every downfall, naturally there will be an up period. It's just we need to survive this in between time and be prepared for the up time. I don't know if that make any sense to you.
Listen, I threw you a really intense and difficult question, and so I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you answering it and answering honestly. It's been my impression. Some people have, in my opinion, mishandled the reality of what's going on and kind of sugarcoated it a little bit. And I don't think that's very fair to the people who are getting sick, or the people who are having an especially difficult time, who have lost their jobs. And there's no sugarcoating what's happening. I think COVID The COVID-19 situation is very difficult, and it's a historic moment. It's going to be, in the history books moving forward, and and we need to acknowledge the problem in order to solve the problem itself or sub-problems. And one of the reasons I also asked you on the show is because I saw Standard was doing something really creative and unique and cool. It was a strong pivot away from the doom and gloom of what's happening. I want to talk a little bit about that, about the Give and Get initiative, which is what I've called it. I want to make sure I'm calling it the proper thing, but
you call it right.
Okay, cool. So I know Standard has it's very obvious to me at least, focus on genuine and meaningful connections with its readers in the coffee community across the globe. Tell me a little bit about this Give and Get initiative. How did it come about? And tell me what's up with the program.
It's an initiative, an idea that we launched a week ago. And it's basically, we decided as a team, as a company, to give all our profit from incoming new subscriptions to coffee shops. So essentially, we created in a three day long hackathon, 24 hours a day work. We created an affiliate program where coffee shops can sign up, and when they do sign up, they get their own unique referral link and referral code. And when they share that code and that link with their friends, customers, and their followers, every time their followers buy a subscription, the coffee shop will get 50% of the price the subscriber pays. It's a small thing that we were capable of doing ourselves, and as a business, as a company, we knew that in order to survive this, I know this is a terrible cliche, but we need to stick together. I wanted to write some kind of a post about what the COVID means for us at Standard and how do we see it. But when I began writing that post, I realized that it's just, people don't really need to read another post that's, hey guys, let's just stick together. We're going to survive this. Let's support each other. I mean, if you look into your Twitter feed or Facebook feed, it's nice to read messages like that. It's encouraging, but if it's too much, it's just too much.
Yeah.
So instead of another post with basically repeating the same thing that already had been said, we created something real, something concrete. So it was basically one day, one meeting with the team when we came up with this idea that essentially, instead of pouring some money into advertising at Google and Facebook this month, this quarter, let's just circulate that money back to the community, because the coffee community is what we came from and what we do this for. So we thought it would be much smarter and much more reasonable way of spending the money. And at the end of the day, an important thing to note with the Give and Get campaign, with this 50-50 profit share, that it's not a charity, and we didn't want to
You're right.
raise donations for coffee shops or which, I mean, there's a lot of donations happening and it's great, but I think that all these small business owners, they're perfectly capable of running their own businesses. They are just living through a difficult time of their existence, same as we do. So instead of raising support, raising donations for them, we just wanted to create something they'll be beneficial for literally everyone involved. So for the reader, because they are purchasing a product, they're not giving the money to someone just out of a goodwill. So the reader gets great value. The coffee shop gets 50% of the price, essentially just for signing up to the program. And it's also beneficial for us because we don't make profit with those purchases, but at least we can cover the running cost.
Yeah,
That's the idea, basically.
It's like you said, there's a lot of communication online about, hey, let's stick together, and all those things are nothing but platitudes unless there's some sort of application, like you said. If there's some kind of like thing that I can actually do to take part in sticking together or being a part of keeping the coffee industry moving forward, even at a snail's pace, with something I can put $1 towards or something I can be a part of as, a roaster or what have you. And I think that Standart is in a unique position to be able to offer that. I think that's, in some ways, that's a privilege, but, companies who may be in a similar position haven't taken that initiative. And that says something about you and your team. I'm thankful for that initiative, and one of the major things I wanted to highlight. And what is the best way for coffee podcast listeners to get involved with the Give and Get?
Well, it's all, the whole initiative, the whole program is super easy to join, and it's hassle-free. So basically, when you come to the standardmag.com website, you can see the list of coffee shops involved. You can see if there's a shop in your neighborhood already signed up in the program and they have the referral code. But if they're not, you can just send them the link to our website, standardmag.com, to sign up for the Give and Get initiative. And as soon as they get the referral link and referral codes, whenever you make a purchase or your friend, or if you buy a gift for someone, they get the 50% of the price you pay. So it's super simple.
We're coming down to our last question here. And our listeners know there's a question I always ask first-time guests. And it's pretty generic. It doesn't have to be about coffee.
Okay.
But I want to know, what do you consider to be one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Well, the one I try to keep in mind every single day I open my computer is under promise, over deliver, which was an advice that I was given by now a friend of mine, but a few years back, a person that I really wanted to be friends with and meet him one day. He's a really, really good local entrepreneur. I saw this in his daily work, the application of this under promise, over deliver, and essentially less talk, more action.
Yeah.
And it has an incredible value in whatever business you are, if it's coffee, outside of coffee. And it doesn't matter if it's a small thing, if it's a request on your customer support that someone didn't receive their magazine, or there was some sort of a minor problem, or if you apply this on some bigger issue, it's always worth it.
Yeah, that sounds like we could use that advice right now, just as we're moving forward and trying to take on this COVID-19 situation as coffee people across the world. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners before we close out?
First of all, I would love to thank everyone for listening to a podcast like yours. It's a big support to the community too, and it's a great way of discovering interesting people that are working in coffee. Yeah, I'd love to encourage everyone to think about their favorite and local coffee shops in their neighborhood that are being closed down these days, and look for other ways, not just our Give and Get campaign, but look for some other ways how to support them. If it's buying a gift card for 10, 15 coffees, if it's getting a bag of coffee ordered online, there's a lot of these small things that, if they add up, it can make a difference.
That's just the thing about coffee people. We tend to be agile, adaptive, and incredibly creative. It's a stereotype I think we're all comfortable with saying, yeah, that one's spot on. Here are just a few of the ways Jonathan, Benny, Eliza, Sebastian, and Anna are getting creative.
For me personally, this is not so difficult to do as for most people. I'm fairly used to working remotely or working from home, working digitally. I can carry on making contacts. I can carry on making content. And indeed, one of the things that's been positive for me about this experience is the number of people reaching out, wanting to have some content, wanting to keep, in some cases, baristas coming to me and saying, I want to keep up my skills. I want to be doing something. I want to keep my passion going. Can you help me with stuff to read? Can you help me with some quotes? Can you help me with that kind of stuff? And I'm obviously very, very happy to do that. So for me personally, this is not nearly as difficult as I know it is for people who are working at the heart of the business.
Just to understand the situation better, what we thought is, if we are sitting at home, not doing anything and just getting worried, I'm sure the rest of the people in the country, in the community of coffee community are doing the same. All the baristas are at home, they're also worried as well, right? So just to get out of this negativity, a few friends and I, we thought of conducting a few classes online about coffee for all the baristas out there for free, so that when all of us get back to living a normal lives once the COVID is over, we'll be all having something to go ahead with us. We'll be having some knowledge, something with us. So we're just trying to make use of the current situation. Otherwise, in general, we're just worried. I'm worried. And we hope that, the situation gets better.
But I would say that remote working and for sure the opportunity of participating in live session on both Instagram and watching webinars have been an amazing opportunity to keep it going. It is true that the business slowed down a bit, but I would say that it's very important for us to be able to use the solutions that we have online to make things smoother. So I would say I've been doing this, and this is also why my main interest at the moment is also having the opportunity to organize a series of events online to talk about digitalization and somehow start triggering the conversation between coffee companies and tech providers on the matter.
On the bright side, I feel kind of lucky because we made a trip to Costa Rica in February, my partner and I, where we recorded around 30 hours of content for Café Normal. And we met so many kind people there. We had so many exciting experiences, and we learned so much about the country, about the culture and the coffee plantations. So while we've had to postpone our upcoming recordings, amongst the many other things, I have plenty of material to edit, and we can still deliver new content. So despite everything, I feel kind of lucky in all that.
And well, for us at PDG, it hasn't really changed the way we work since we all work from home. But we have been in constant communication within the team to look for new ways to support our clients. And also, since we know this is a difficult time for small businesses, for roasters, for coffee shops, for baristas, we have been trying to support the community, at least on social media, sharing every campaign we've seen there and hoping to support them in some way there. But I hope to see everyone reopening their shops and roasteries and baristas going back to work in the next, hopefully, couple of weeks.
What gives me pause for hope is that I think that for some of those outlets, we know that the consumers have not lost their taste for coffee. We know that there is somewhat of a rise in grocery and online shopping for coffee, the product. So we must hope that when coffee shops can function properly again, that audience is still there. I think it clearly will be. The supply is still there. There doesn't seem to be a disruption of supply. The question is, when will they be allowed to reopen and to reoperate? And on that, I have no more guess than anybody else. So I'm trying to stay hopeful. I'm very conscious of my privileged position vis-a-vis a lot of people. I keep my fingers crossed for them. I wish everybody well. I wish the coffee business well. I look forward to us all meeting again once this is over.
These are unprecedented times for coffee people, but for people everywhere. Each of us is experiencing this a little differently, but it does not change what we all have in common. We all want to see the coffee community thrive, not just after, but through this COVID crisis. Do your part by taking part in a coffee training with Benny or reading one of Professor Morse's books. Check out what Elisa is doing with Coffee and Tech. Check out Sebastian's French Coffee podcast, or go read an article by Perfect Daily Grind that Anna helped launch. If you can, financially support your local coffee people by purchasing from them whatever you can, or even with donations. I'll leave links for all the aforementioned in the podcast description. I'll also leave a link from the NCA to help those of you who own a coffee business and need help navigating these times. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, and until next time, happy brewing.